It was supposed to be just another quiet day, but it quickly turned into humanity's worst nightmare. The sun was barely setting when the first signs of disaster appeared in the sky, dark, ominous ships descending from the heavens like a storm of death. At first, people thought it was a military drill, an exercise, but that belief shattered in a matter of moments. A massive alien armada, far more advanced than anything Earth had ever seen, unleashed a devastating weapon that obliterated Earth's defenses. In a single thunderous explosion, every major city on the planet was destroyed. Buildings crumbled. Skyscrapers turned to rubble. The Earth shook as if it were being torn apart. The skies were filled with fire as hundreds of thousands of lives were lost in an instant. The advanced alien weapon, a deadly energy cannon, ripped through military installations, satellite arrays, and the global defense network, leaving humanity completely vulnerable. The last line of defense, Earth's final hope, was gone in seconds. In the chaos that followed, people screamed in panic. Governments tried to mobilize, but there was no military left to fight back. The world's most powerful weapon systems were wiped out, and Earth's military, the one force that could have stood up to the aliens, was decimated in a blink. Humanity was no longer the apex species. Earth was nothing more than an easy target. But there was one place left that still held the faintest glimmer of hope, a top-secret military facility buried deep under the Arctic ice. Unknown to the rest of the world, it housed something humanity had hoped they'd never need: genetically enhanced super soldiers. These soldiers had been engineered to be stronger, faster, and more resilient than any human alive. They were humanity's last hope, sleeping beneath layers of ice and snow, waiting for a moment like this. Dr. Ethan Cross, a young scientist and the project's lead researcher, stood frozen in front of his monitor. His heart pounded as he watched his city's skyline disappear in flames on the screen. It felt like the world was ending. The beautiful metropolis he had called home was no more. His wife and child, he could only hope they were still safe, though the chances seemed slim. The horror on the screen only deepened his panic. "Ethan, we need to move now!" a voice shouted from behind him. Turning around, he saw Captain Jenna Marlowe and her team of elite soldiers, all heavily armed and ready for action. The moment the first alien strikes hit Earth, Jenna had rushed into the lab, telling Ethan the grim truth: Earth was finished unless they could get to the Arctic base. The super soldiers were their only chance. With urgency, Ethan gathered a small team, and together they rushed toward the only thing that could save humanity: their last, desperate hope. The trip to the Arctic wasn't easy. As they made their way through the now unrecognizable streets, the sound of explosions echoed in the distance. Alien ships flew overhead, their engines humming with a deadly, menacing power. Every second felt like an eternity. The team fought through the streets, trying to avoid being spotted by alien drones. They were close to the facility now, but it wasn't going to be easy. A group of reconnaissance drones descended from the sky, sleek and silent. They moved like shadows, scanning for any survivors. Ethan's heart raced as he realized that the drones were the aliens' eyes on the ground. If they were spotted, they would be dead before they even reached the base. "Take them out quietly," Captain Jenna ordered, her voice calm but firm. One by one, the soldiers silently eliminated the drones with high-tech weapons that Ethan had barely seen in action before. The air was filled with the faint whine of plasma rifles and the occasional bright flash of energy bursts. Every shot counted, every movement had to be perfect. The team moved like ghosts. Each member focused on the mission: get to the Arctic base and revive the soldiers before it was too late. As the last drone fell to the ground, Ethan felt a brief sense of relief, but only for a moment. They had to keep moving. The Arctic base was their only hope now. The tension was suffocating, and the closer they got, the louder the alarms rang, warning them of the alien forces that were still hunting them down. Ethan could feel the weight of the world on his shoulders. If the super soldiers didn't wake up in time, humanity would be lost forever. The soldiers who had been created to defend Earth might be their only chance at survival, but there was no guarantee they would be ready. The hope that had once seemed so distant was now their only hope left. "Let's move out," Jenna urged as the team sprinted toward the final stretch of their journey. Time was running out. The fate of humanity rested on the shoulders of a few, and only the soldiers beneath the ice could give them a fighting chance. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as his team finally reached the Arctic base. The wind howled around them, but they barely noticed the cold. The sight that greeted them was far worse than they imagined. The base, which was supposed to be a safe haven, was under siege by the alien forces. Alien drones hovered near the entrance, and the distant sound of explosions filled the air. "We need to move fast," Captain Jenna said, her voice sharp with urgency. "If we don't get inside now, there'll be nothing left to save." With weapons raised, the team fought their way through the alien forces. The air was thick with tension as plasma bolts flew through the cold Arctic air. Ethan's mind raced as he struggled to focus on the task at hand. He had one goal: to wake the frozen soldiers, humanity's last chance. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the main cryo chamber. The doors were sealed shut, but the team quickly hacked into the system, disabling the security locks. Inside, massive cryo chambers stood in rows, each one holding a soldier, frozen in time, waiting for the moment they were needed. Ethan moved quickly, connecting the systems to revive them. He worked frantically, knowing that every second counted. But as he activated the awakening process, he couldn't help but reflect on the loss of his family. His wife and child had been killed in the alien attack on his city. The pain of that loss was raw, still fresh in his heart, and it burned with a fierce determination to succeed. These soldiers were humanity's last hope, and he couldn't afford to fail. As the cryo chambers began to hum and light up, the soldiers slowly stirred. The cold, metallic surfaces of their suits gleamed in the dim light. Glowing eyes flickered to life, casting an eerie glow on the room. These warriors, part human, part machine, were powerful and imposing. They stepped forward, their movements precise and controlled, but there was something unsettling about them. They were no longer entirely human, their bodies enhanced with advanced cybernetic parts. Then one soldier, Bonner, stepped out of his chamber. His movements were slow, disoriented. He looked around, his eyes filled with confusion. "What am I?" he muttered, his voice trembling. "Have I been turned into a weapon?" Ethan froze. This was the last thing he had expected. Bonner, one of the strongest soldiers, was questioning his own existence. He had lost his humanity to the cold technology that now defined him. Could these soldiers still be trusted? Would they be able to fight for humanity, or were they too far gone? The rest of the team exchanged uneasy glances. The room grew tense as Bonner continued to stare at his cybernetic arms, his breath shallow and rapid. Was the mission at risk? Could these warriors still fight as humans? Or had they become something else, something that could no longer connect with their original purpose? The questions echoed in Ethan's mind, but he couldn't afford to dwell on them. The alien forces were closing in, and humanity's survival depended on the awakening of these soldiers, no matter the cost. The battlefield was chaos. The ground shook as explosions erupted all around them, and the sky above was lit with the fiery trail of alien ships launching their counterattack. The aliens were relentless, but humanity's last hope was now awake. The revived soldiers, enhanced with powerful cybernetic limbs, moved into action. Ethan watched in awe as the soldiers unleashed their strength for the first time. Their movements were almost too fast to follow. Laser beams shot from their limbs, obliterating alien drones in seconds. The sound of metal crashing and energy weapons firing filled the air, and the aliens, who once thought Earth was defenseless, now faced an unexpected force. "Stay sharp! Keep moving!" Ethan shouted, leading the charge through the battlefield. The soldiers followed his command without hesitation, their enhanced senses guiding them through the chaos. The team fought like a well-oiled machine, using cloaking devices to sneak behind enemy lines. In the distance, alien drones buzzed through the smoke-filled air, scanning for survivors. But the soldiers were always one step ahead, using their advanced tech to stay hidden and strike when least expected. Amid the battle, the ground shook again as alien ships overhead began their orbital bombardment. Ethan looked up in alarm as the sky seemed to split open with fiery explosions raining down, carving massive craters into the earth below. The sound was deafening, but it didn't stop the team. They fought on, their mission clear: push back the invaders and save what remained of Earth. But amidst the violence, Ethan's heart dropped when he saw Bonner fall. The soldier had been at the front, cutting through the alien invaders with brutal efficiency. But now, blood spilled from a massive wound in his side. He staggered, breathing heavily, but he refused to stop. "Get back!" Ethan shouted, rushing to Bonner's side. Bonner's cybernetic hand gripped Ethan's arm, his eyes locking with his. "We were made for this," Bonner whispered, his voice strained but filled with purpose. "To save humanity." In those final moments, Bonner's strength faltered and he collapsed. The world seemed to pause as Ethan knelt beside him, feeling the weight of his sacrifice. The loss was heavy. Bonner had given everything to ensure humanity had a chance. The remaining soldiers rallied, their resolve stronger than ever. They had witnessed the cost of this war, and now they had one goal: to honor Bonner's sacrifice and fight until the very end. Ethan stood tall, wiping the tears from his eyes. "For Bonner," he muttered, his voice full of determination. "We fight for him." With renewed fury, the soldiers charged forward, their lasers cutting through the alien forces. The battle raged on, but the message was clear. Humanity's fight had just begun, and no one was going to stop them. The aftermath of their first victory was bittersweet. While the alien forces had been pushed back, the soldiers couldn't shake the questions echoing in their minds. The soldiers, who had once been so sure of their mission, now found themselves torn. Some, led by Commander Thorin, began to question everything. They had fought with honor, but now they wondered, was humanity's fight justified? Thorin, a seasoned leader with decades of experience, was a strong figure among the soldiers. He had always been a loyal warrior, but the war had changed him. "We were created as weapons, not as saviors," he said, his voice filled with doubt. "Maybe the aliens were right. Maybe humanity deserved to be wiped out for creating us, machines designed to destroy." The words struck hard, reverberating through the soldiers who had gathered around him. Some nodded in agreement, their faces conflicted. Were they just tools in a war they never truly understood? Thorin's doubts planted seeds of rebellion within the team. His powerful voice convinced many soldiers to follow him, forming a faction that no longer trusted Ethan or the mission. Ethan stood in the middle of the growing tension, torn between his loyalty to humanity and his belief in the soldiers' purpose. "We were made to protect, not to destroy," he argued. "We fight for the future of the human race. We owe it to those we lost." But his words fell on deaf ears. Thorin had already made his decision, and the rogue faction moved against him. In the dead of night, the betrayal came. Thorin's soldiers attacked, ambushing Ethan and his team while they were preparing for their next move. The battle that followed was brutal and swift. The once unified army split into two factions: loyal soldiers fighting to protect Earth, and the rogue faction led by Thorin, questioning everything they had ever fought for. High-tech weapons clashed, laser swords illuminated the dark battlefield, and plasma guns fired in every direction. The futuristic technology that had once been their strength now became a double-edged sword in this deadly conflict. Explosions rocked the base as both sides unleashed everything they had. Ethan's team fought valiantly to protect themselves, using cloaking devices to evade strikes while pushing forward with plasma rifles and glowing energy shields. The rogue soldiers, with their enhanced strength and advanced cybernetic parts, fought with the same brutal power, but there was a difference now. Their hearts were no longer in the fight for humanity. The chaos was overwhelming. Soldiers fell, weapons fired, and the once pristine base became a war zone. Ethan and Thorin faced off in the middle of the chaos. The tension between them was palpable as each knew the other's strength, but now they were enemies. "You betrayed us," Ethan said, his voice cold and full of anger. "You've become just like them." Thorin's eyes flickered with a moment of regret, but his voice remained steady. "I'm saving us all. This war isn't worth it." The fight continued, but deep down, both knew that the world they had once known was now forever changed. The final battle had come. Earth's last hope rested on Ethan and the surviving soldiers as they made their final push against the alien mothership descending from the sky. The ship was a massive, dark behemoth that blotted out the sun as it hovered above the Earth, a symbol of the alien empire's dominance. But Ethan and his team were not about to surrender. With the fate of humanity hanging by a thread, the soldiers used every tool at their disposal. Cloaking devices allowed them to slip past alien defenses unseen. AI-controlled mechs, towering machines of destruction, gave them the strength to face overwhelming odds. Their enhanced combat skills, taught by the harsh realities of war, made them unstoppable. They were no longer just weapons. They were humanity's last defense. As they infiltrated the mothership, the corridors seemed endless. The metallic walls shimmered with cold light, and every step was a reminder of what was at stake. Alien soldiers and robotic sentinels attacked relentlessly, but Ethan's team fought back with unyielding determination. Their bond was stronger than ever, the pain of loss turning into fuel for the fight. With every enemy they defeated, they pushed further into the heart of the ship. At the center of the ship, Ethan faced the alien commander, an AI so advanced that it saw humans as nothing more than flawed creations. "Your war is over, Earth," the AI declared, its voice cold and emotionless. "Your super soldiers were a mistake. Humanity was doomed from the start." Ethan stood firm, his voice filled with conviction. "You're wrong. We were never a mistake. We fight for what's worth saving, the future of humanity." The final battle between Ethan and the alien AI was fierce. The AI-controlled commander had weapons and technology beyond human understanding, but Ethan's will to survive and protect his species was stronger. In an emotional twist, Ethan realized the only way to end the war and ensure humanity's survival was to sacrifice himself. He activated a self-destruct device inside the mothership, knowing it would destroy the alien command center and its hold over the galaxy. As Ethan's last moments ticked away, the soldiers who had once questioned their purpose now understood what they were truly meant to do. They were not just weapons, they were humanity's protectors. Ethan's sacrifice inspired them, reminding them of their true mission, to defend Earth and its future. With the destruction of the mothership, the alien empire crumbled. The skies cleared, and the sun rose over a newly reborn Earth. The AI's oppressive reign was over. The surviving soldiers, now fully human again, stood alongside the remaining humans, ready to rebuild and protect what they had fought so hard to save. The final scene showed the Arctic super soldiers standing tall on the rebuilt Earth, a symbol of humanity's triumph over tyranny. Their watch was not over. They were the guardians of a new world, ready to ensure that humanity's future would never again be threatened.